let's get straight into it. The plan is to, if I can get my slides to roll forward. There we go. The plan is to talk about 4 different things today. We're going to cover these points. First one is sort of a weighting is not a strategy section. And then we're going to talk about staying current, why you want to stay current, what that means. And then we'll get into the plans that we're seeing people making and the kind of conversations that we're having with people about their strategies, their plans, sort of the issues that they're wrestling with and dealing with. And then we'll take questions and wrap things up. So that's the outline for the session today. And we'll get straight into weighting is not a strategy. So our friend Lyle Extall there on the right, stood up at Collaborate in 2017 and announced, Oracle's commitment to Enterprise One, continued commitment to Enterprise One. They talked about extending support. At that time, it was to at least until 2027 or 2028, I think. Now, JDE Edwards is going to be supported till at least 2030. And they announced a strategy of continuous delivery from an enterprise, from a software engineering perspective. And at that time, everyone was thinking that JDE Edwards needed to look and feel a bit more like, a modern cloud-based enterprise application. And from an engineering perspective, I think the Oracle JDE Edwards team felt like they needed to adapt their practices and change the way they make their software available to people who bought and continue to invest in JDE Edwards to make it look and feel and be a bit more, like a SaaS software enterprise application. So that was the whole sort of get current, stay current sort of mantra. And anyone who's not familiar with that idea, certainly can do a bit of research and find out a lot more about what continuous delivery means and how Oracle's been continuing to deliver and will continue to deliver long into the future. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into it. But at that time, it was all talk about continuous delivery, and continuous delivery means, much more frequent, regular releases of software from Oracle. They are delivering more or less twice a year tools releases, and once a year there are roll-up or collections of ESUs that they're calling application updates. And I think, from its conception, in the original introduction of Release 9.2, there have now been, 3 application updates, and anytime soon now we're expecting a 4th application update. But those application updates means that, you as a user of JDE Edwards have choice and control over what you take and when you take it. But Oracle is making stuff available much more regularly on a planned basis that you can sort of get into line with. And what that means, if you step across the divide, from continuous delivery, which is something that Oracle does, you as users of the software can start thinking about how you're going to more continuously adopt software. How are you going to regularly deploy and activate new features? These 2 things in combination really lead us to a point where we can talk about continuous innovation. And more, if you look in the press and you read about what people are saying, in respect to enterprise software generally, and more specifically about, enterprise software, there's a lot of talk about the digital enterprise, about innovation and continuous innovation. And it's really all about taking, JDE Edwards from a place where, it's a fairly staid back office foundational solution, to a place where the people who you serve, as people that look after JD Edwards, the people that you serve really see JD Edwards as an enabler and as something that they can rely on to help them innovate. And what that means is getting to a point where continuously innovating means more rapidly and cost effectively responding to business demand. And JD Edwards as a platform, and as a suite of applications really is in a good place. And we'll talk about some of the things that Oracle is doing and that you guys should be aware of and that we can take advantage of as we look to try and deliver value more consistently. We don't want people challenging, the investment that you've made or that you continue to make in JD Edwards. And the best way to combat and, to fight against people questioning the value is to deliver more and more value very, very regularly. And the whole continuous delivery, continuous adoption, continuous innovation thing puts us into a position where we can talk about and start thinking about continuous value. And the whole point of what we're talking about when we talk about enabling innovation, and changing the way we do work on JD Edwards is about implementing and coming up with a strategy and some plans that deliver, real value on a much more regular and consistent basis. So, something that, I think's been said, off and on over the last couple of years is that, 9.2 and, waiting to get to 9.2, and getting to 9.2 and not doing anything once you're on 9.2 is not really a strategy. So we talk about waiting is not a strategy, but we talk about waiting is not a strategy against the backdrop where companies are moving, and you can see the numbers here on this slide. Companies are moving more and more to 9.2. And you can see the shift from 2016, 2017 to 2018. Quite impressive. And it continues to move all the time. And, we're talking to lots of companies, that aren't just getting to 9.2 now. They're already on 9.2, and they're actually thinking about what being on 9.2 means and what is their strategy and what are their plans, now that they're on 9.2 to take advantage of Oracle's continuous delivery strategy and the opportunities that presents from a continuous adoption and a continuous innovation perspective. So you got to have a pie chart. This is the latest pie chart. I think we were at a presentation just 3 or 4 weeks ago where Lyle showed, this chart where you can see that the world is shifting forward, and that 9.2 piece of the pie is growing all the time and continues to grow. But there's still a tremendous amount of opportunity for companies that haven't got to 9.2 to have conversations about getting there. And then looking beyond just getting to 9.2, looking beyond getting to 9.2 and thinking about how they're going to live and survive and have more success once they're there. So, people still ask the question, what is going to happen, and is it the best place to be? Oracle with JD Edwards, has announced and has made available sort of the longest published support timelines of any software vendor. So if anybody out there has any concerns or reservations about Oracle's commitment to JD Edwards Enterprise One, I can very quickly and quite shortly say, you shouldn't. But if you want to discuss any concerns or reservations, there are plenty of people within the partner community or within Oracle itself who explain, what the support strategy and plans are, and what it means to be able to have support, for JD Edwards Enterprise One for, at least, until at least 2030. So that's a really, really significant and positive sort of thing. Oracle does continue to invest. They've really moved on, from providing software application modules, to meet, functional requirements. And, we're looking now, when we look at JD Edwards, at a digital platform. And it supports all of these sorts of things. All of the components, that are important to a digital enterprise are supported in some way, shape, or form. And in many ways, in an outstanding way, they're supporting the Internet of Things, enterprise mobility, content management, knowledge management, all of those sorts of things. And the Internet of Things is, really cool space with all the stuff that Oracle's been doing with the orchestrator. And, there are many sessions, on orchestrations and notifications and those sorts of things. But it's important to realize that, the product is for the future, and it's one, that deserves a strategy, and it deserves plans, that don't just get you to the next post or milestone, but that sees you beyond that milestone and sees you getting into a position where you can start to behave, react, respond, and to serve the businesses that you're working in, with solutions that allow you to innovate and be creative and to better serve your customers and suppliers and what have you. A lot of what I've talked about and what, sort of the subtext to this conversation is that for those of us that have been around JD Edwards and that implemented JD Edwards some time ago, it's, the way we look after JD Edwards and what we do with JD Edwards, needs to be thought about differently. We need to be thinking about what we look like and what we feel like, as IT, delivering solutions to the business. And we need to think about how we can change what we do. It's nice to talk about everything that Oracle's doing, but, that's quite simply just what Oracle's doing. Oracle can do lots and lots and lots. If you can't take what Oracle is doing and figure out how to make that available and to introduce that effectively into your businesses, and how you can effectively use what Oracle's been delivering and continues to deliver and will continue to deliver. If you can't take that and make that easily digestible and consumable, and accessible to your businesses, then you're probably underserving them. You're selling yourself short, and you're probably not providing as good a service as you can. So you really need to think about and look at what you're doing, how you're doing it, and you need to think about taking advantage of the resources that are being made available by Oracle and by partners in the community to help you take advantage of all of that stuff. So if you're going to look at what you do and how you do it, and you're going to think about ways to do your jobs better, and ways to make JD Edwards more attractive, more palatable, more exciting, you need to address the key problems. And this slide sets out the challenges that our customers have told us they feel like they need to overcome when they start thinking about code current. They start thinking about an upgrade to 9.2, or once they're on 9.2, they start thinking about a regular code current change event, and a project that allows you or allows them to bring themselves up to the latest and greatest level, that's available by being made available at JD Edwards Oracle team, to get the most out of their investment. So testing is a huge thing, and many of you will know that DWS has a suite of testing products, and we've introduced those to sort of tackle that first, the first line of the chart there at the bottom. But as you move down, we talk about projects requiring too many resources and becoming too expensive and too disruptive. And you can address those challenges in a number of those challenges in a number of different ways. Obviously, testing has a bearing. Doing a better job of testing and automating your testing and testing smarter has a bearing on the amount of resources that you need to commit. But there's a conversation, that you as IT need to have with the business around every single project. Obviously, they want projects that help deliver value, and it's our challenge, your challenge, to sort of shape and mold projects to deliver business value. But at the same time, alongside delivering business value, we need to do the hard work, that keeps us code current, because if we're code current and we're running very good projects, we're in a much better position, to respond to demand, and to run projects, that will deliver value and help the business move itself forward. So we need to be thinking about how we can offload some of the resource requirements, how we can get a handle on cost and bring predictability, into the equation, and to make these projects easier for people within the business, the people that are being impacted. And we'll talk about that. And you'll see how we do that, and how some of the people that we're talking to, are doing those sorts of things as part of their their strategies, and what and the plans that that they've adopted and are implementing as well. So that's a little bit about the situation and the lie of the land, the landscape, if you will. And more often than not, people say, "Yeah, I get it. I understand. What it means. Code current." But what does it really mean? Code current is really quite fundamentally about avoiding pain. For years and years, many folks within the JD Edwards community sort of did a big project and then waited, to do another big project. And every single one of these projects hurt in some way, shape, or form. And staying code current is all about relieving that pain, trying to do things in a less disruptive, less painful, less traumatic sort of way. Better use the resources, increase the levels of adoption, try and get into a pattern and into a routine, that sees you staying close to what the latest and greatest is that is available, and that'll pay dividends. If you can do that, the implication is that you're going to be running more, smaller, faster, and smarter projects. And if you're doing more smaller and faster, smarter projects, you're becoming more responsive. You sort of earn the right, to run projects. If you're demonstrating that the projects you're running are quite quick, delivering something back, and we're clever about the way we do them, and we're not disrupting and causing too much pain and provocation as a consequence of what it is that we're trying to do. And to help everyone, run these sorts of projects, more smaller, faster, smarter projects. Oracle has done a lot, and they continue to do a lot. There's a list of, I don't know, that's probably 10 different things here that are all available by way of tools releases, from 9.1 and above. And some of these are new at 9.2, but you can research and look into each and every single one of these things on the Learn JDE website. But the message is that Oracle's trying to help you guys solve this problem in the same way that a company like DWS is trying to help you solve the get current, stay current challenge. to address the get current, stay current challenge, by offering, our own products and services. And our products and services are complementary, to what Oracle's delivering. Some of what Oracle is doing in terms of customization workbench and, application configuration analyzer and version compares and all that sort of cross over and touch on, services and tools that we have as a business. But the point is, that there's a lot of stuff out there, either directly from Oracle or from companies like DWS to help you guys think about how you want to, to handle the challenge of getting current and staying current, and helping you craft a proposition that looks attractive to not just yourself but to the businesses that you guys serve. It's delivering on getting current and staying current. Running smaller, faster, smarter projects is exactly what the continuous innovation delivery model is all about. Continuous innovation, continuous adoption, continuous delivery. And we've got the $6 million man there, being better, stronger, faster. It really taps right into that, and is very similar to what you'd expect it to do. You'd expect Oracle to be doing, and Oracle is moving the platform on. I've talked, already, in this presentation, a couple times about what Oracle's doing, and we're clearly no longer just talking about a traditional ERP. We're even beyond thinking about, JD Edwards just as a digital platform. There's new stuff, that is starting to allow people to view JD Edwards as a supervised ERP, and ultimately, everyone has aspirations to bring JD Edwards all the way forward to a point where it can be viewed as, an autonomous ERP. But you can't take advantage of any of that. Really, you can't effectively take advantage of any of that, unless you're, on a good path. Maintaining and looking after JD Edwards, and arguably getting current and staying code current. So this slide just kind of reinforces, what it is that Oracle's doing and how Oracle is helping you and giving you lots of things to choose from as you decide how to sell projects. And, a lot of what we have to do, when we think about a code current change event project, a lot of what we have to do is sell a project, to the businesses that we serve. Yes, they'll have a list of priorities. They'll have projects that they want you to run. In and amongst what they want you to do, I think, we need to be taking advantage of the investments that Oracle are making and leveraging the investments that Oracle have made, to bring some of these features, functions, and capabilities to life as part of the projects that you're running, or as a separate project alongside the projects that you're running. The cost of doing an upgrade, if you wait too long, is significant. The disruption caused by an upgrade, if you wait too long, is significant. And what we're advocating is thinking about running more projects, taking advantage of all the investments that Oracle have made to run more projects, that perhaps deliver less, but deliver quickly, positively, predictably, without tremendous amount of disruption. And if you can do that, you're sort of changing the way JD Edwards looks and feels, from a consumption perspective, project consumption perspective, as opposed to just a software product and package kind of perspective. So what we're hearing a lot of people talk about is consigning to history, the idea of a massive capital project, to move JD Edwards from 9.1 to 9.2, or to move JD Edwards from application update, application or release 9.2 application update 1, to 9.2 application update 4. That's a pretty big step. And if you've waited that long and you have to run that kind of a project, we do find ourselves having a conversation, and we found ourselves having this conversation with a number of potential customers as well as customers, about that big step. And we want to get into the habit of making smaller steps. And if you can get your brain around, and if you can sell to the business and finance, the idea of running more smaller projects, you've got an opportunity to actually take the projects themselves off the balance sheet and to treat those projects as, operating expense. And that can be beneficial in a number of different ways. But from a stewardship, a guardianship kind of perspective, the idea of being able to predict, and to have a known cost in each of 1, 2, or 3 years, that sits alongside your strategy is really kind of cool, and can be very, very important. It's nice. As Bill Murray says there over on the right-hand side, something that we're hearing a lot of people want to do. Now, what DWS has done in support of all of this, I talked very briefly and just kind of nodded to the suite of testing products that we've got. But we've also created, a code current retrofitting as a service offering that we call Dimension Tempo. And Dimension Tempo, comes into play over on the right-hand side of this life cycle sort of graphic. After you've implemented, maintained, and have upgraded the software for a time, you're going to want to you'll be at 9.2, and you're going to want to think about staying code current at 9.2. And alongside our testing products, we're talking to a number of customers and even systems integrators, about a very unique, code current retrofitting service offering that allows us, to say that if you run one project in each year over the next 3 years, the cost of those projects is going to be X, and we'll commit to doing a project for that amount of money. And that retrofitting project, will then sit alongside, the balance of the project, the change, business change management, and the training and the testing, that needs to go on alongside all of the retrofitting. But that whole code current, relieves, the code current retrofitting service sort of relieves your IT people and your own development people, from the responsibility of worrying about code current. You can concentrate your development resources on doing, cool things, around the innovations that Oracle have delivered, and, to bring those things to life within your business as part of the projects that you're running. So, we've talked about, what Oracle's doing and why they're doing it. We've talked a little bit about what it means to be on 9.2 and to stay code current on 9.2. So, the next thing we wanted to get into this last section really, is to talk about, your plans. And, the one thing that just comes to the fore, with absolutely everybody, is this idea of a cadence, a rhythm, that you're gonna march to, as you go forward. Obviously, if you're not on 9.2, the first step of the journey is going to be the project that gets you to 9.2, but you need to look past 9.2. We'd argue that you need to look past 9.2 and think about update 4, update 5, update 6, update 7. There's going to be a lot of updates in the coming years, and you don't want to find yourself in a position where you're letting a lot of time pass before you're running projects. So you need to think about what's a reasonable cadence. Is it a 6-monthly project? Is it a 12-monthly, every 12-month project? Is it an every 18-month project? There is no right answer. And the great thing about Oracle's continuous delivery strategy, and the good thing about the fact that, Oracle's JD Edwards software is not available as a subscription service. You've got choice, you've got control. You get to choose the cadence that works for you. But when you decide on that rhythm, that cadence, you need to be prepared every single time to critically evaluate what's being made available to you and to decide how you're going to sell what's being made available to you to the business. And I say, as I said before, you can do that in and amongst the projects that are already in front of you, or you can, perhaps create a brand new project and bring some of the stuff in as part of a brand new project in and amongst a project portfolio that you have in front of you within a calendar year. But each and every one of those change event projects, will effectively look like a whole bunch of ESUs. Could be an application update, but it'll look like a whole bunch of ESUs. And you need to evaluate those ESUs from a technical perspective as well as from a business impact perspective. And the technical stuff, you can either retrofit yourselves, or you could outsource the retrofitting to a company like DWS, and we would do code current retrofitting as a service. And then you're going to have to go on and do the testing and the business change stuff, that you always do when you're getting ready to go live with software. So, you need to think about what, these 5 steps look like in your environment, with the way you sort of plan and manage projects and the way you sell projects and sell strategies. For looking after systems, within your business. You have to come up with a master plan, and you need to be able to sell that master plan. What we've done with our portfolio from a code current perspective, on that right side of that life cycle diagram, we had colored little rings. Each one of those colored rings relates to a product or service. And, we've got these 4 different products: Focus, Swift Test, and Load Test, which are, software as a service products that have been designed explicitly or exclusively for, use with Enterprise One and to help people better look after Enterprise One. And then we have the Dimension Tempo Code Current service. So they come into play. And what we're going to do next is just talk about a couple of customers, that have worked with us and have committed to not just the upgrade to 9.2, but to looking after 9.2 on a code, on an annual basis. And the 2 companies that I'm going to talk about both have committed, to stay code current and to run annual code current change event projects. And the first is Brassfield and Gorey. It's a independent general contractor in North America. And we've worked with them for a number of years, doing a couple of different upgrades for them, and then, working with them to build a strategy, or craft a strategy and put together plans to keep them code current. And, we've done that, by entering into a 3-year, code current, retrofit, code current retrofit service agreement, and also, including, the Swift Test and Focus products to really help them get a handle and run, better, smaller, faster, and smarter projects. The next company that we were working with, in this vein, quite recently, they're actually in the final throes of going live with their first code current change event after having upgraded to 9.2, and that's a company called Pharmavite. And Pharmavite was really interesting because, they didn't come to us with anything other than, a really, really strong desire, to change the way they were running projects. They wanted to improve the quality of their projects. They wanted to reimagine their projects. They wanted to, they accepted and understood that they probably needed to be able to run more projects than they were, than they felt they were probably going to be able if they didn't change the way they were working. And they were, very receptive to the idea of, outsourcing the technical retrofitting so that they could, turn their developers onto some more exciting and interesting work than, the work that, the retrofit tasks, which tend not to be the most exciting development tasks that folks get to work on. Now, they bought into the whole suite, and they even have expressed an interest and have plans to use dimension load test in support of their as part of their strategy and plan. The dimension load test thing isn't just all about making sure that the infrastructure you've got is up to the job. It's really helpful and useful to help you understand whether, after you've introduced a change, anything in the code that's been implemented is either buggy or that creates contention or causes problems for people getting on and working in the same way that they were prior to going live with the changes that you're bringing in. So let's wrap this up. We've talked about reimagining the way you run projects, thinking about changing the way you run projects and do projects, with a view towards keeping you code current. Fundamental to being successful, with that, in our opinion, is giving away the retrofitting problem. Let somebody, whether it's DWS or somebody else, but keep it separate. Just have it that runs in the background, and buy into cost certainty, buy into predictability. Get an agreement in place that gives you that, the predictability and the knowledge that, once a year at a time that suits you, you can tackle, or take advantage of the opportunity that continuous delivery, Oracle's continuous delivery strategy, affords you from an adoption and an innovation perspective. And obviously test smart. And if you're doing that, you do really need to change what you do and how you do it. And if you want to talk about changing what you do and how you do it, and you want to talk about your strategy and your plans, we'd obviously love to help you do that. And I hope, having got to the point where I plan to sort of hand over and open up for questions, I hope if you feel that you'd like to learn more about this, that you'll reach out to us and have the conversation and understand a little bit more about what we're offering, how we're offering it, and how we might be able to help you. There's tremendous opportunity. We're all, it's the old cliche, we're all on a journey, and it's the journey to becoming a digital enterprise and to better serving businesses that we look after and that are trying to compete in a digital economy is a challenging one. So that's about 40 minutes from me from a presentation perspective. I'd like to invite you guys to, there's an alarm going off in the background telling me that my time's up, so let me dismiss that. Excuse me for that. Let me invite questions. I'm gonna grab my questions box here and see what's coming in. There's a couple of questions coming through. First question concerns how DWS, is able to give people a predictable cost for code current change events. Very simply, DWS's pedigree is in helping customers look after modified code, and we've got tremendous experience, and we've got a wealth of development and technical resource here at DWS. And our resources over the years have come up with a methodology and developed tools, proprietary tools that we use to help us understand a customer's modified environment, and to help that customer look after that modified environment. So with a request to understand what it might cost to stay code current from a retrofitting perspective, we're able to work with people very simply. We can ask 4 or 5 questions, get 4 or 5 points of data, and from those points of data, we're able to give you an estimate, of what it would cost if you were to run an annual code current change event. And we're able to do that by using our tools and by analyzing the change that Oracle has been making from, from 9.2's inception, through update 1, through update 2, update 3, and then very soon with update 4. So we're analyzing all of that data, and we're able to tell people, listen, to keep you code current, given what you've done with the software, is going to cost you between $10,000 and $25,000 a year, or between $25,000 and $50,000, or between $50,000 and $100,000. So we can give you a gauge as to what it might cost. And then, if you're thinking that those numbers are reasonable and that you might be able to sell that sort of idea to the business, we can refine that, and we refine that by running an extract, doing an extract of the code that you're running, and we can explain what that looks like and feels like. There's nothing, we're down to the pixel level. We're looking at the spec files associated with every single object in your environment, and we're analyzing those spec files. We're analyzing what Oracle's been doing over the years, and we're able to give you a price, with which we look after your code on a code current basis for the coming years. So that's the answer to that question. Next question concerns the products, and whether the testing products automatically come with the Tempo code current retrofitting service. And the short answer is no. Our testing products can be used by anybody, in support of any project, from tools release 9.1.2 or above, basically. So that, we'd be very happy and interested, to talk to you about how the testing products can sit alongside Dimension Tempo, to help you realize, to craft a strategy and then implement plans. And at the same time, if you don't think you need any help with retrofitting, and you've got retrofitting covered by some other means, either your own people or some other service provider, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be looking at testing smarter and the adoption and introduction of one or more of the DWS testing products. I think that's about it. And looking at my clock, I think we're just very close to the 45-minute time that we'd set ourselves. Those are the only 2 questions that came through. There isn't a third. If anybody does have any questions, don't hesitate, to reach out to us. This last slide has a generic sales@dwsglobal.com email address. But you can email me directly at patrick.neary@dws-global.com. We'll be happy to engage and work with you, and answer any questions that you might have about changing the way you look after JD Edwards and doing a better job of looking after JD Edwards. As I said, we're very committed to helping companies be successful, and get the most out of JDE. And I want to thank everyone who's attended today for joining. If you registered, weren't able to attend, and are listening to this listening to this presentation as a recording. Thank you very much for your interest. And we'll hope to see you soon, either at Collaborate or In Focus or some sort of regional user group event. And we'll hope to do business with you at some point in the future as well. So thanks again, everyone, for joining, and we'll wrap things up at this point. Thanks again. Bye.